So I've made nearly the same Washington Wizards video every 3 or 4 months for the past 3 seasons or so, and it seems now it may all be falling off the cliff. Now, they won tonight against the Clippers. I'm recording this at 3 a.m., by the way. So maybe this is the chance where it all turns around, but if we believe the rumors of the team making John Wall, Bradley Beal, and Otto Porter available and all that, then I think there are some things to talk about. And those things are not different lineups and staggering Beal and Wall's minutes, none of that stuff. So I'm probably going to milk like 3 videos out of this whole thing, where this one talks about what the Wizards should look for in a move for Beal and Wall, and then another one will focus on teams that should try to trade for those two. But anyway, if we can talk about what the Wizards could possibly look for. I mean, I think in a perfect world, Washington probably trades John Wall, keeps Bradley Beal, and maybe they would move Otto Porter depending on what they would get back, right? Because Beal, I don't think he's hit his ceiling. I think he's had to deal with John Wall shooting a lot of long 2-pointers and also having to deal with Scott Brooks not having the best offense in the world. Now, I should say, John Wall has actually shot the least amount of mid-range jumpers, I think, of his career this season, and for them to still be struggling is just a little weird thing. But, Beal seems like he can be a 25 to 30-point scorer. He's on a great contract for the next 3 years. He's in his mid-20s. You wouldn't want to give that guy up, right? However, at the same time, that's probably the dude you can get the most for in return, because I think there are teams out there like the Pacers, which I'll talk about them in detail when I do the Bradley Beal video, but if they decided that Miles Turner is not the dude, and there are definitely people out there not associated with Indiana, of course, that feel like Miles Turner is just not as good as we envisioned him, right? They could be wrong, they could be right, whatever it may be. But if Indiana started to feel that, and they put Miles Turner in a deal for Bradley Beal, I don't know if anybody else can beat that, especially if Indiana then included like a first or an unprotected first. And the other thing is they also have a bunch of dudes making about $10 million on 1-year contracts, so the filler would not even be that difficult to include. And then of course they got Sabonis, who's been pretty good. But the other thing with Beal is I feel like any team could kind of talk themselves into trading for the dude because of all the things I praised about him a second ago. But the other thing is why I feel like they might want to keep him, the Wizards. And it goes back to me thinking he hasn't really hit his ceiling, right? Like if you had more of a pass-first kind of a point guard who could also just make some threes and give you some spacing and be content with like not having the ball in his hands all the time, and also a guy who doesn't want to just pout whenever he doesn't have the ball and he goes stands in the corner, then I think that could help out Beal quite a bit. And we saw that when John Wall was out, the offense did not fall apart. You had Sato and Beal out there, and to be fair, Bradley had to play a lot of minutes, but I would hope that wouldn't have to be the case if you just replaced John Wall with just a solid enough point guard or some other solid enough position, and then you just had Satoransky take over the full-time point guard job. Now, whether that would work long-term or not, I don't know, because Satoransky is a free agent after this season, and I think the smart teams, at least, are going to realize that he can play, and there's a chance he ends up with like a $9 to $12 million contract, and given that the Wizards are at 116 right now before re-signing anybody, well, who knows if he's going to be there. But still, I think the potential of Bradley Beal leading an offense can really be something. I also think it's kind of intriguing that his playmaking has gotten better the past couple of seasons. It's not through the roof, but I mean, he did put up 4.5 assists a game last year when John Wall played half the season. And his turnover percentage was still pretty good, so could Beal have like a DeMar DeRozan-esque jump as a passer? I mean, I'm not going to guarantee it, but I think it's in the cards, and I think that alone is worth wanting to keep him because, I mean, if Bradley Beal can put up, let's say, 25 points a game, and I do think he's that good, through three-point shooting and being able to make a shot from everywhere, basically. And then he's given you, we'll just say he gets up to 5 assists a game and his turnovers don't go through the roof. That's a hell of a player. That's a dude who, by himself, can probably make you a mid-tier offensive team, assuming that everything around him is not a disaster. So, yeah, it's worth keeping the dude. But, of course, it may not be that easy, because Beal, I think, is going to get you the most back in a move, because John Wall, I can't confidently say many things about John Wall at this point, because his actions as a leader have not been good the past couple seasons with this team's attitude and thinking they're way better than they actually are. His inconsistencies on defense, where at one time he was one of the best defensive players in the league. The fact that his jump shot has never really shown much improvement. I mean, his free throws have even gotten worse the last 2 years. Did not come into this season in shape. On top of 28 years old and that massive contract, it's going to be difficult to move that guy. And I don't want to repeat everything that I'm going to say now in the future John Wall video, but I will at least touch on it a bit. I think the teams that would consider making a move for the guy would be a desperate team who's got a star player who may or may not be there shortly, aka the Pelicans. A team that is already pretty swamped with salary, so as a result, they don't really have any other way of getting better, so you might as well take a swing, like the Pistons or the Miami Heat. Or it could be a team that just really wants to be good again, like the Phoenix Suns. I know the Orlando Magic have floated out there, but ever since they got that new GM, it seems like he's all in for the patience play. And I don't think John Wall is much of a patience kind of a move, so yeah. Now, the thing is, if you make one of those moves, like if you move John Wall to those teams I'm talking about, and those are just those teams, I mean, I could be flat out wrong. There might be some other team that I'm not thinking of that would make a move for Wall, and that could change this whole dynamic. But if it ends up being one of those types of teams, then you're probably ending up with some players that can maybe help you win right now. And I don't think that's a horrible way to go about this. I mean, this is still like an actual NBA roster. I mean, Dwight has been kind of fine this year. Now, sure, he hasn't played every game. And the on-off numbers would suggest that he's actually been a problem because they're like 5 points worse when he's in there. But given how much of a mess this team has been, I'm going to side on the analytics. Don't tell the whole story on that one. And then between Markieff Morris and if you were going to keep Otto Porter, if you managed to move Wall, and then if you got back like just actual NBA players, I mean, it would have to be better than this. You know what I mean? I mean, I've seen suggestions of like Goran Dragic, and I mean, Dragic definitely would not command the ball as much as John Wall would. And I mean, Bradley Beal's a better player than Dragic, so perhaps there would not be any confusion about who should shoot the most, because I think that's been a lingering issue between Beal and Wall for the past couple of seasons. Now, you could also argue that Dragic is on the decline and is 32, and you could also argue that Miami would not want John Wall, but it's just a thing, okay? It's a team that's been floated out there by more people than just me. And, you know, if you start peeking around with the way the Heat have made players better and they've made players lose weight, and Pat Riley's always willing to swing the dice, and on top of all the money that they've got committed for the next few years, it's a thing, okay? So yeah, I think that's my take on the Wiz. I guess real quickly, if I can touch on Otto Porter. If I was them, I would like to keep him, because I think he has been criminally underused by this team. Part of it being Scott Brooks' offense sucks, but also having a point guard who doesn't shoot 17 times a game while also shooting below league average on threes would probably help out Otto Porter getting more shot attempts. So, yeah. That is my take on all things Wiz. Again, I am going to have some real-life footage vids of Beal and Wall coming up on probably tomorrow. just talking about, some teams that they could potentially end up on. And yeah,